Welcome again to you all in AFL Footy Land. Glad to have your company for another year during which we can share the highs and lows of tipping football. The teams are evening themselves out, making weekly selections even harder, although it looks like Essendon might be the easy pick of the season as a result of the WADA ban on half the team. Let's hope that we don't hear a lot about that anymore. After 3 years, the whole dirty saga is getting rather boring, unless, of course, you're one of the banned players. From the ashes of all this, the Bombers will unearth some young untried talent, as well as give an opportunity to delisted and retired players from other clubs and a new home for them for at least 12 months. Just before the season began, we lost Paul Couch, Brownlow medalist and former Cats player. It was terribly young to die from a heart attack, and Couchy will be remembered as a great player and a real character. I'll assume that you're all up to date with the draftees and the free agent changes in the teams that happened pre-season, the biggest of which was the move of Dangerfield to Geelong. In NAB games, he looked in great form and he'll be a big bonus for the Cats in 2016. Although the season hasn't got underway yet, the Hawks look to be the team to beat again, with West Coast, Freo, Sydney, North and the Bulldogs, along with Richmond, maybe Adelaide and even maybe Collingwood vying for top 8 spots. The Gold Coast and GWS will make bids for the finals, hopefully with a bit more luck regarding injuries to key personnel. Yours truly is now living in Portugal, and while it's better than China, and I'm living almost on the beach here, the time difference during daylight saving at the moment is 11 hours. Then our daylight savings starts and then Australia stops, so the difference will be thankfully just 9 hours. My early mornings will be taken up watching the footy, and my afternoons will be free to hit the beach. What a life. I'm sure we'll cover much drama, some great goals, great plays and close wins over the season. Best of luck in the tipping to all of you. Let's start with round 1. Thursday night, Richmond versus Carlton at the MCG. The Tigers took a young team to Perth to play the Dockers pre-season, but then brought out the big guns for their match against the Hawks, a game which they dominated to win by 12 goals. It's been said that Carlton has a worse list than Essendon's re-jinxed side, and if that's the case, then this game will be a boil-over. On the bright side, it's an easy tip. Richmond by 42. Saturday, Melbourne versus the Giants at the MCG. The Demons will continue to improve, but they're still a couple of seasons away from being any threat to sides as good as GWS. Well, as GWS is supposed to be, considering the talent that side has. They looked good against the Swans in the NAB Cup, but then Melbourne beat the Power in that competition too, and just recently beat the Bulldogs. If the Giants want to be considered a chance, then they have to win these games against supposedly lower sides. Giants by 10. Gold Coast Suns versus Essendon at Metricon. It'll be interesting to see what sort of game plan the Bombers will have considering their situation. They have an astute coach in John Worsfold, but whether they have enough talent is another thing. This year, Essendon has nothing to lose, so teams shouldn't take them too easily. But even with all that said, it's going to be hard to tip them until they face the Blues. Gold Coast must make the finals this year as a minimum. They should start on that road with a win here. Gold Coast by 33. North Melbourne versus Adelaide at Etihad. This shapes as one of the games of the round. Both teams were in good to great form last season, and in North's case, they are upbeat about premiership chances. The Crows will want to make the finals after a tragic season in 2015. A new coach, a new game plan, and the Kangaroos for their first match. It should be a good one, but the tip is the Kangas to start their crusade for the flag. North Melbourne by 29. Sydney versus Collingwood at the SCG. This is also going to be a tough game for both teams, as the Pies will want a positive start to the season, so will the Swans. Late in the year, injuries certainly cost Sydney last season, and they will be ready to take up where they left off from 2014. Collingwood seems to start the year well, but has faded away 2 years running. They've recruited well, and they might be good enough to take the points. The match is being played at the SCG after the Swans successfully put an end to the ANZ Stadium contract, a ground on which the Pies rarely lost. But the tip is Collingwood by 15. On Sunday, Easter Sunday, the Western Bulldogs take on Freo at Etihad. Freo finished on top of the ladder and the Bulldogs finished sixth, but there is not a lot between them with the game at Etihad and Fremantle having to make the journey. Plus, a packed house of crazy Western Bulldogs supporters just might be enough to tip the result their way. However, the Dockers are just as likely to win. Expect the game to go right to the wire. It'll be great to see Nat Fyfe, current Brownlow medalist, in action too. The tip is the Bulldogs by 22. The second game for Easter Sunday is Port Adelaide versus St Kilda at Adelaide Oval. The Saints surprised last year when it was expected that they would win the wooden spoon. They didn't, and they won't even get close to that this season, with wins against Essendon and Carlton almost guaranteed. Port was disappointing last season after their 2014 effort, and they will want to get back to that more consistent winning style. St Kilda will be no pushover. They showed that last year. It'll be an interesting game for at least a half, but expect the Power to do enough to win easing down. Port Adelaide by 39. Over in Perth, West Coast will play Brisbane at Domain Stadium. If you're thinking that because West Coast finished with a grand final appearance and the Lions finished almost last, that Brisbane doesn't have a chance, then you're right. They don't. They'll be competitive for about half a game, but they don't really have the forward firepower of the Eagles. It won't be close. West Coast by 51. On Easter Monday, to finish the first round off, we have Geelong versus Hawthorn at the MCG. This game's always a good match for these two teams. The press like to give the rivalry from previous grand finals a lot of discussion time, but that was a long time ago. The Hawks have nothing more to prove, and the interest will be whether they are motivated enough to fight on for a fourth consecutive premiership. The Cats had an ordinary year last year, and they will want to improve on that. Will Hawthorn still be a bit hungover from their flag win last year? For the sake of this tip, I hope so. Geelong by 14. So there it is. That's a wrap for round one for the 2016 AFL season. The selections are Richmond, Giants, Suns, North, Collingwood, Bulldogs, Port, West Coast and Geelong. I hope I got a few of them right. Good luck with that. See you next week.